for years, MSPs have had a holy grail in mind, which is to create a recurring revenue stream that covers their cost base and their wage bill. So at the start of every month, whatever they sell is bonus, basically. Extra profit, extra turnover. That's been part of the move away from the break-fix model to the recurring revenue model. All MSPs during over the last 10 years, since the start of the industry, have looked for big projects. I heard a speaker at an event recently call big projects the cocaine of the MSP world, because they deliver a load of revenue and a lot of profit quite quickly, and people can go off and buy their cars and watches sometimes. So there's been a natural focus on projects, and a big MSP owner said to me recently, we've recognised that the bottom's falling out of big projects. They're just not happening anymore. There are a lot fewer of them. So we have to recognise that we're not going to be able to turn over as much as we have been doing, because they get a number of big projects every year worth £1 million or so, and there aren't as many. And at the same time, they don't understand yet how to make as much profit out of cloud services, because if you're reselling someone else's cloud service, the margins are sort of dictated by other people, and they often seem to be quite low. So the challenge is how to turn over as much by selling more cloud services, and how to get enough profit. And I think that's about how you wrap your services around the basic provision that's already there from a third party quite often. You have to have expertise. It's a specialist area. A lot of MSPs do not know enough about security to be able to be good at that. So one way of dealing with it is to work with a third party. The sort of people who do penetration testing stuff know a lot more about security than typical MSPs. So and it's expensive to get that sort of expertise in-house. So partner with someone else who's got the expertise, or if you're big enough and you have enough requirement, then have your own expertise in-house. Never think that you know it all when you don't. Make sure that you do, because security is a big thing, and people can get into a lot of trouble if security goes wrong in a lot of ways. So it's very important. The other thing is that it's always changing. There are new threats appearing all the time. There are new solutions appearing all the time. There's new legislation coming out all the time, and you always have to be abreast of all those things if you're going to be a security expert. So and whatever you do, don't ignore it, because everybody in the industry, from end users through resellers and MSPs to manufacturers, none of them have paid enough attention to security, and luckily people tend to get away with it. They only start to pay enough attention when something goes badly wrong. You don't want to be in the position where you've let a client down and something goes badly wrong, because it could, A, it's unethical, and B, it can cause a lot of damage to you and the client. Most MSPs will say the same sort of things about this. We all claim to have good processes, procedures, people, skills, and diligence in our businesses, but it's true to varying extents. So you have to tell people what you do to be diligent and to be effective in providing service, but you have to back it up with case studies and references. If your clients allow you to use case studies about them and are prepared to give you references which specifically relate to the sort of issues that we're talking about here, then people will believe you. Without case studies and references, why should they? Well, I've got clients who've done both things. There's no right answer. It very much depends on the circumstances of individual providers, I think. For me, it's all about what clients need, again. Now, if you're an MSP in a particular, you might be serving a particular vertical where there are lots of bespoke apps that have not been launched as software as a service models yet anyway, so you have to run them somewhere, and in those circumstances, you may well be able to make a case for having your own infrastructure to provide those sorts of services on. I have to say though that the big players, the Microsofts and Googles and a host of others in this world, are getting really onto the software as a service bandwagon, and it is getting harder and harder to find space for people to really deliver a lot of extra value on their own platform, I think. So, and that's not just for software as a service. I think it goes for the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and general hosting type offerings. There's a lot of stuff out there, and to be successful in the marketplace, you have to be able to differentiate yourself. And there's less space to differentiate yourself in terms of cloud services now than there was a few years ago, certainly. And there's no point in spending a lot of money on infrastructure if you then can't sell it. So if you're going to build infrastructure, make sure you've got a client base that wants it and will use it. Otherwise, you'll find yourself with a very expensive infrastructure and no customers to pay for it.